Yeah, so I decided to put this video up because I had a lot of people call. By the way, if you see some balloons in the back there, my daughter just turned 1 yesterday, so we had a little shindig for her. So that kind of give accounts to that. But I decided to put this video up because this week, strangely enough, I've received several phone calls from people asking me, should I buy Bitcoin? Should I buy Bitcoin? And these are people I know personally, and none of them are wealthy. They all have families, so investing is something that you should be very cognizant and aware of what you're investing in, and what are the risks and those things that are involved, especially if you have families, because if you get hurt, they get hurt. So I decided to put this video up, and this video, and full disclaimer, this video is not a solicitation to buy, sell. It's not to encourage, discourage. It's purely informative. That's it. It's just to inform you on what Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies and stuff like that, what a little bit about it, and then you can come up with your own conclusion. So getting that out the way, before I delve in, I want to say this. The income gap that we have as it stands, I think I looked at it in 2015. The income inequality gap is a direct, I believe, it's a direct result of the educational gap. The reason why I say the income gap is a result of the educational gap is that if you look at those with a high school diploma, 80% of individuals with a high school diploma make up 80% of those individuals make up the individuals who are making between $20,000 to $30,000 a year. I'll say that again. Individuals with a high school diploma or less account for 80% of individuals who make between $20,000 and $30,000. This is a national census. You can Google it, you can research it and check it out yourself. So now there's an inverse relationship to that. And the inverse means it's the opposite, and it's almost identical. It's actually 78% to be exact. So 78% of individuals with a high school diploma account for $20,000 to $30,000 a year. So those who make $20,000 to $30,000 are individuals with high school diploma or less, and they make up 80% of that pool. If you look at the inverse relationship to that, it's individuals with a college degree or more make up 79% of individuals who make between 180 and 200,000. I'll say that again. Those with a college degree or more accounts for the individuals who make up 180 to 200,000, and they make up 80% of that pool. So it's almost, it's not airy. It just makes you think like, wow, it's almost a direct, inverse correlation. 80% of individuals with a high school or less, they make up between 20 and 30. They make up for individuals who make between 20 and 30,000. And then you have 80% with a college degree or more that make up between 180 and 200,000. What that tells me is that there's a direct correlation with the educational gap and the income inequality gap. So the income inequality gap is a result of the educational gap. So if we can figure out how to narrow the educational gap, then it will proportionately narrow narrow the income inequality gap. So if we can, so I say all that to get into the cryptocurrencies and the Bitcoin fad. I call it a fad, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But keep that in mind, because that's going to come back up later. I'll tell you why I put that out there first. Now, let's get into this cryptocurrency thing. I'll do my best to explain what it is and what it isn't, and you have to bear with me, because honestly, this is the most complex. It's such a sophisticated and complicated, very dense topic. Very dense, very dense. And I'll explain to you why it's all by design. It's intentional. Okay? It's intentionally designed to be highly sophisticated, right? So first, let's look at a cryptocurrency. What is it? Well, cryptocurrencies are digital currencies, right? And you'll say, well, what the hell is a digital currency, right? But before I even say that, let's look at the word crypto. Crypto is, the Greek for crypto is kryptos with a K. And the Greek word kryptos means hidden. It means secret, done in the dark. Again, cryptos, Greek, secret, hidden, dark. That's the standard definition of what cryptos mean. We also know out of cryptos, we get the word cryptic. Cryptic is anything mysterious or enigmatic, right? So it's an enigma. It's not easily known. It's not easily fathomable. So we also know from cryptos, we can get the word kryptonite. And we know kryptonite is according to the Marvel comic books or whatever, if you're a weakened Superman, right? So everything about the word cryptic, crypto, kryptos, crypto, everything about that word has a negative connotation. There's nothing about that word that carries with it a vibration of positivity or anything of that nature. And that's the word they tie to your cash, which is the currency. So that alone right there gave me reason for pause, right? Because I'm an etymologist. I like to look up and understand what, every word has a special, underline, undertone. So that gave me pause. That's one. Two, digital currency. Well, what's a digital currency? Well, it's just a fancy way of saying it's virtual money. It's virtual money that operates in a virtual network, which means, in essence, it doesn't exist. Let's look at it like this. A Bitcoin has zero intrinsic value. And I ask that you bear with me because this stuff is very, as I said before, it's very dense. It's extremely sophisticated and complicated. And I'm going to do my best to, this video is to break it down and use the KISS principle. Keep it simple. With as simple as I can possibly keep it within the parameters of and the context of what we're discussing. So a Bitcoin has zero intrinsic value. What I mean by that is if you have a commodity, if you have companies give you stock options, certs, and another thing really quick, some credentials. I've been in finance for the last 14 or 15 years. I have my Series 7, 63, 24. I've been on Wall Street. I mean, I've been in the banking system for a while. So that's just a little bit of credentials on why I'm speaking on what I'm speaking. So you can have like a little bit of, you can say, okay, I get a little bit of authority to know what I'm talking about. There's some credentials there. But yeah, back to this Bitcoin. So Bitcoin essentially has no intrinsic value. And what I mean by has no intrinsic value is it simply means it's backed by nothing. There's absolutely nothing backing it. Okay? If you have stocks or you have any kind of assets, there's usually some kind of back into an asset. Like if you own options, your options are backed by some asset. Companies give you options, stock options. Those options are backed by, it could be shares in the company, something backs it. So it has an intrinsic value. You can trade in your stock options or you can trade it in your certs. You can trade it for something of value. There is no intrinsic value in Bitcoin. Okay, that's one. And what we're discussing right now is the properties. I want to discuss with you the properties of Bitcoin, transactional properties and monetary properties. We're talking monetary properties right now. We'll talk transactional later, but monetary properties, it has none, right? There's no backing. It also has no physical form. Unlike your coin, you literally could take your coin and hold it in your hand. You can take your dollar. You can there's a physical form for your monies. You know, Federal Reserve. You have a gold. You know, if you own gold, you own silver. It has no physical form. It's permissionless, meaning anyone, anywhere can get into this Bitcoin fad or gig or scheme. That's the word I like to use, scheme. Anyone, anywhere can get into this. It's permit. You don't need permission. Why? Because it's a decentralized entity. What does that mean? It has no central authority. There is no centralized banking. There is no centralized database. It has zero regulations. And let me just give you some examples of why this is important. if you buy a stock right now, you make a stock purchase for whatever, 10, 20, 30, whatever amount of money, 30,000, 40, you buy a stock. That stock, you can go online, you can look at the company that you bought. Let's say Caterpillar, for instance. You buy Caterpillar stock, you know, you can go online, you can actually visit Caterpillar's site. Okay, you can, and if you don't have the wherewithal to go to Illinois, which is where one of their sites are, where the main headquarters are, you can go online and go to pull up investor relations and actually communicate with a staff, with some representative or some form of representation from that company. Apple, that's a given, right? So you know that if you own a company, there is some form of back end or some kind of safeguard, if you will. There's none of that. Why? Because it's a decentralized entity. It's a decentralized currency. It has, you know, right now, you have the Federal Reserve, which is our central banking system in these United States. You have the ECB in Europe, the European Central Banking System. So you have central banking systems in every developed nation has a central banking system. And why is this important? Because for instance, Wall Street has FINRA. And since the Patriot Act, since they passed the Patriot Act, you have FinCEN, you have SARS, Suspicious Activity Reports, and all these FinCENs and SARS and FINRA and the SEC, and these are all, keep it simple, these are police for the finance and all the financial world. These are what you would call the police, the regulators, the policing of all of our transactions, whether it's through a bank, a brokerage. They have checks and balances, and you know, you have the SIPC, which is Securities Investors Protection Corporation, that backs your brokerage firm, or your monies are backed up to $500,000, $1 million. It all depends, but there's some kind of checks, balance, regulators, and policing, and nothing's perfect. You're still going to have it. Clearly, you still have issues in all of this, but I'm just trying to explain to you the distinction between this new entity that's relatively new, 2009. I believe his name was Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi Nakamoto is the individual who first created and invented this Bitcoin thing. So these are properties of it. Again, it's decentralized. It has no central authority. It's pretty much anything goes. You know, it's a wild, wild west type of a thing. So it's decentralized. It has no back end. It has no physical form, no intrinsic value. And what that means is that the value of Bitcoin is what you pay for it. I'll say that again. The value of Bitcoin is you give it the value. Whatever you decide to pay for it, that's the value of it. So there's no underlying value. It's what you pay for it. Okay. Also, what exactly is Bitcoin? Okay. Bitcoin is a string of characters. That string of characters, it's about 30 characters, and it's in mathematical form. Now we're going to go from monetary properties to transactional properties. Transactional properties. When you do a transaction, Bitcoins are created by a process called mining. Mining is a process where you would need a huge computer system, put it like that, and you would burn a ton of electricity. Okay. I mean, literally, your electrical bill will be through the roof if you become. Anyone can be a miner. Okay, that's another thing. Anyone can be a miner. A miner is just an individual who decides to spend. You could either pony up $2,500 or $4,000 to get a mining kit. Mining kit pretty much it constitutes computers, just like a platform of computers, and those computers, they overheat and they burn a ton of electricity. Because of the overheating and the high cost to mine, they've come up with different kind of mechanisms. Hash coin, which is a more efficient way of mining. It burns less electricity. It overheats at a lower rate, so therefore you can increase your mining productivity. And if you can increase your mining productivity, then you can increase every time. Now, let me explain. Mining is pretty much, it's what you're doing is you're confirming and certifying a transaction. What that means is if I buy Bitcoin, if I'm customer X and you're customer Y and we do a transaction, that transaction has to be confirmed and validated by a miner. Miners, the way they validate our transaction is they compete with other miners in a dark world, in a dark network web. Dark, I emphasize the word dark, and I'll explain to you why I put the word dark, and I emphasize that word. It's a dark web where other miners again are individuals who can pony up the money to get the mining kit, which is a basket, or it's just a ton of computers, right? And these computers mine. And when I say mine, just think of like a gold miner. A gold miner has an axe and he digs in the earth until he strikes gold or whatever it is he's looking for. Well, it's the same concept, but in the virtual world. Instead of a physical pickaxe, you have this hash coin, which is these computers, a mining kit, and they actually, instead of digging dirt, what you do is you solve complex mathematical problems. Whenever a miner solves a problem, he is rewarded with 12.5, or I believe 25, between 12.5 or 25 coins, actual Bitcoins. Hence, he created a Bitcoin. He or she creates 12.5 to 25 Bitcoins every time he can solve a mathematical problem. Now listen to this. Check this out. That mathematical problem is called cryptograph, right? Cryptograph. The puzzle that needs to be solved is called a cryptograph. Graph means paragraph, graph writing, anything that's written, graph. Cryptograph, again, I told you what crypto means, right? Hidden, secretive, whatever. So it's a secret, it's an encryption. It's a secretive encryption, a code, which is cryptograph, that needs to be solved by a miner. And once the miner solves that cryptograph, once he decodes it, he is then rewarded with coins, and hence Bitcoins are created. This is how Bitcoins are created. And again, Bitcoins are strings of characters, 30, it's between 20 and 30 characters, and they have what's called addresses. But those addresses actually have no backing in terms of an identity or a physical address. There is no physical address. Why? Because this whole thing, everything I just discussed to you, right, is done anonymously. So you never know who you're buying from and who you're selling from. You'll never know. Because why? It's called P2P. Whereas if I go into the stock market and I buy a stock, I might not know the person I'm buying the stock from, but I operate through a market maker. Every brokerage firm goes to a market maker. Every have a market maker. That market maker job is to take my order and match it. If I'm buying, match me with a seller, or vice versa. Once that's done, it's placed on the ledger, the books, you want to call it, balance sheet, whatever it is, and codified on a database. That's how it typically works in the conventional system that we have in place now. With this new Bitcoin system, there is no middleman. Okay, there is no market maker. There is no bank. Every transaction we do now, we have a bank and we pay a transactional fee. All right, whether you're using a credit card, a PayPal, whatever it is, there's a middleman between me, customer A, and customer B, and there's a middleman and there's a transactional fee, and that middleman makes sure everything is called consensus, and then that's stored. With this, it's just P2P. P2P means peer to peer. In other words, the same way I can send you a text message, the same way I can send you an email without a middleman. If I text you, there's no middleman. If I email you, there's no middleman. The same way I can send you a text or an emoji or whatever it is, that's what this system's, this is what they're trying to phase in, where you and I can transact all of our business financially without a bank or any kind of intermediary, which is a final institution. So it's without a bank and or final institution, without a bank and or a financial institution, some form of intermediary. So they're trying to phase that out so that you and I can literally get on our phones or whatever device we have and conduct this exchange or this bartering without any overseer or any supervisory entity, which I'll explain later opened up a world of whoop ass in terms of like frauds and other economically outlawed activities. We'll open up a world like Pandora's box has never been opened before, but that's another topic, another discussion. But so this whole thing is done with P2P, peer-to-peer, and this is what's, like I said, this is the mining process and how Bitcoins are created and so on and so forth. And you can mine on your own, meaning you get your own mining kit, set up shop. But what's happening is warehouses are starting. People are, enterprise and warehouse are actually setting up mining warehouses. So now the one guy mining can't compete with a warehouse. So they have what's called a mining pool or mining cloud. Mining in the clouds, so they're really dragging us into the matrix here. You think I would hope we all know we're living in the matrix already, but this is like a whole nother level of matrix. Okay. So this is the mining process, and this is how you get Bitcoins, right? If you can be a miner or you can be a buyer. So Bitcoin is not the way Bitcoin is looked at too. It's not I know it's called a currency, but it's considered it could be property or it can be an asset, meaning you can use Bitcoin for various things. You don't just have to buy and sell and purchase. It can be for, it could be for property. Okay. It could be used to exchange for, an asset. So it's not necessarily just like you buy, like you walk into a store and buy. You can use it for various things. But listen to this. So hopefully you're sticking with me. I know it's like I said, I told you it's confusing. I mean, I'm doing my best here to try to simplify this whole thing. It's very confusing. I'll talk to you about that later too. Just keep that word in mind, confusing. Keep wizards in mind as well. Wizards, dark, confusing, magic. Keep those 4 words in mind. Very important, because you'll see how I wrap them all in conclusion. So this is pretty much, this is how the Bitcoin process works. Okay. And obviously you can trade, buy it, sell it, trade it. It's irreversible, meaning if you're in your home and you do a transaction, once you hit confirm and it's done, you can never, ever, ever reverse that transaction. It's sent out into the virtual networking dark world, and that's it. Unlike with your bank, or if you buy stock, or if you trade in Scottrade or anything, you have an online trading account. If you do an order, like you're at a brokerage firm, and if I put an order in for a customer, and that customer says he didn't authorize this order for whatever reasons, there's a process that you can reverse. And if there's a loss in the account, the firm will have to eat that loss, or the broker, myself, or whoever would have to take that loss. But there is a way to undo what's been done. Whereas with this, there is zero chance. Why? Because once your order is sent out, it's put into it's converted into what's called a block. A block is a transaction that needs to be verified and secured by the miners. Remember, in order for a miner to confirm and to secure and to verify your transaction, like I said before, that transaction is sent out into the web, And all the miners compete to solve a mathematical, like I told you before, electrographic puzzle. Once that electrographic puzzle is solved, that transaction is considered a block. Okay, it's considered a block. And a block is just a transaction that's been confirmed and verified. And the way it's confirmed and verified is by solving in a very sophisticated mathematical code. Once it's solved, it's encrypted, meaning it's further codified. It's further encrypted. It's further cryptographed. It's further cryptographed to a point where it's irreversible, because not even, it's more secure than Fort Knox, meaning your transaction is more secured than Fort Knox. I've read something, I got some of the paperwork here that I was doing a whole bunch of, like, all weekend. I've just been reading up on this stuff. But one person put it, you have a better chance of having an asteroid fall from the sky on your house than for someone to actually decipher your account. So it's tight. It is. I mean, the reason why it's so secure is, you got to keep in mind, this is not like, oh, you just need to enter your password. Like, you know, you have a phone and you put your password in, or a computer. No, you're talking about cryptograph. Yeah. You're talking about hold on, let me see something. Let me just be sure. Yeah. Yeah, you're talking about okay. Yeah, the reason why it's so secure, yeah, cryptograph, right. The reason why it's, yeah, I'm right, yeah. The reason why it's so secure, because cryptograph is something that's used or evolved during World War II. And it was used to send information, to get information, and to transfer money in wartime. Let that sink in. So we're now taking something that was like exclusive to the military, to the highest levels of government, and putting it in the hands of anyone who can get a mining kit. Think about that. Anyone, general public, anyone can say, all right, I can afford a mining kit. I can do, you know, and start using cryptograph or solving cryptographs to gain Bitcoins. I predict that that's not a good thing for various reasons. But be that as it may, the potential for money laundering, for, you know, all kinds of dark underworld illegal activities is just grown exponentially should this thing, you know, really take up traction. And it's picking up a lot of traction. But here's what it is. Furthermore, what it is an attack, and it's a full-blown assault on the current banking system. Because what this thing is looking to do is to remove all of the banks. It's doing what the banks do now, but it's doing it in a way where, again, it's peer-to-peer, and it's doing it a way where it's using, like I said, it's using matrix on a whole nother level. Cryptographical puzzles, encryptions, computer digitally, and, you know, everything is encrypted, computer and digital. Like, it's a whole new way of, it's like, it's again, I'm confused by it. So I think about that, and, you know, if you can't put it like this, think about this. Russia bans all their banks from using or engaging in this thing. they restrict it to individuals. Guess they're thinking, yeah, you guys could screw yourself up, but you're not messing with our system. That's pretty much what they're saying. China, same thing. Their banks, prohibited. Individuals, you want to play, go. Their governments are like, okay, you're not going to destroy the system that we have in place. But if you want to destroy yourself, be my guest. Go at it. Give it a go. I look at that as telling, right? I think it's pretty telling. Like I said, it's in the 17th century, I believe it was 17th century, tulips. You had something called tulip mania, where they introduced some kind of tulips and speculators went crazy and drove the price, astronomically high. Like really, really, really high. And then like a week later, it just right? Everything just went out the window and everyone lost. And it was called tulip mania. You can look it up. This was like in the 16th century, 17th century, whatever. And I look at this $19,000 Bitcoin, and I'm like, yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's a history repeating itself, because all these people that's calling me and telling me they want to buy. What's Bitcoin? I don't know. That's the answer. No one knows. But you want to put 10 grand, 5 grand, and I know that you're not rich, and you want to take your hard-earned money and put it into something that you can't even explain on a fundamental, elementary, layer of what it is. So you don't even know what it is. And I work hard for my money, right? So I'll be damned if I'm going to just take my money out of my pocket and throw it out the window. So I'm not saying that I'm anti-investing. I'm all for investments. I think this is wise. It's smart. We should invest. Let your money work harder for you than you work for it. That's a fact. But make calculated decisions. Make a hypothesis, where you can gather, collect. Like if I want to buy a company, I can look at a balance sheet. I can look at their net income. I can look at their debt to equity. I can look at their carry costs. I can look at their burn rate. I can look at their year over year, their quarterly report. There's so much information that I can actually, there's a plethora of information that I can draw from and then come to make my deductions, right? Like I can say, okay, X, Y, and Z, if all A is B and B is C, then C is A. I can put together some stuff to kind of like forecast where this is going to go. And then from there, I can, make a calculated risk. Take a calculated risk, excuse me. There is no balance sheet with Bitcoin. there is no, companies got what's called 10Ks and 10K quarterly report. There is no quarterly reports. There's nothing. It doesn't exist.